Right.
And the one thing that he actually did do, because everything in that article was a complete lie. Complete and utter lie. There was not one piece of factual truth in there, from him lowering the deficit to raising employment, all of these things that are just patently untrue.
Right.
The one thing that he did actually do, that he said he was going to do, was pass socialized medicine. And that's the one thing that they have in Canada, is the only thing that writer didn't mention.
Yeah, it's always interesting. Like, even us as a radio show and so-called sources, man, I invite you, check everything out that we say. If it doesn't add up, or if it doesn't, ring of true, at least do yourself the favor, research it, find out where it's coming from. If we have the links, we try to present them to you and let you know where you can find the same stuff. Question everybody. You're doing yourself a favor. Exactly. Like, I always go back to the bedroom analogy. Would you just let anybody into your bedroom? Would you just spread your legs for anybody? I sure hope not. Question it. Ask them who they are. Well, some people do.
I
absolutely.
like those people, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They bear the burden, though, of not questioning and not testing things. And then they wake up with something special and burning. And then they're like, whoa, you didn't tell me. Well, you didn't ask. You didn't look.
I love that. I love that you're comparing the average citizen, not only American citizen, the world citizen, to an STD victim.
Yes.
Because that's actually a great analogy. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there. There are a lot of people that... because unfortunately, a lot of us are victims and slaves to our basest desires. Also, not only sexually, but everything from receiving free money to receiving free food to receiving a free home to receiving a free sex from a slut. Hey, I'm an ugly guy. It's hard for me to get laid. So if I can get sex from this chick who's a slut, even at great risk to my person, to my physical body, of bumps growing on my penis or whatever the case may be. Hey, well, it's free, and I can't. It's hard for me to get it elsewhere. So that's a great analogy that you put out there.
The reason I use that analogy is because it's easiest for people to relate to.
Right.
It's very simple. It's not complex. But it's very, very serious because most people understand.
What it illustrates is that there are consequences to that.
Yes.
There are consequences to those to things that come easy.
I have always considered the United States, since its change in policy regarding letting people into the country, as kind of a whore.
Right.
And the reason I use that analogy is because the whore will spread her legs for anybody. And before, we used to, chart every single U.S. citizen coming in. There was a process, documentation, etc. And that's how we weeded out, people of a terrorist nature from coming in here and building cells, etc.
Causing harm to our citizens.
And causing harm to our citizens. We paid attention to what we were letting in. We paid attention to who we spread our legs for.
Right.
And I think that's frugal and smart to do that.
Absolutely. I'd like to build on that analogy and point out to people that we as a nation, we're like a beautiful, intelligent, honor-filled person. Imagine, if you will, a guy or a girl that's incredibly beautiful and has integrity. Not only is beautiful, that rare individual that's not only beautiful but super smart, that has honor and integrity, just all the best qualities you can hope for in a person, and is also just breathtakingly gorgeous. Right? That person, more than anyone else in the world, can afford and should be picky about who they lay down with.
Yes.
Who, if they're a woman, allow into their body. Who, if they're a man, allow themselves to thrust their person into. Because the consequences of choosing that partner and not using protection, whatever the case may be, can be disastrous.
Lifelong.
We have to be picky, especially now when we're so bested by the crashing of our economy and all of the unconstitutional acts being taken on by the powers that be. Now more than any time in history is it important for us to really be picky and stand up for our integrity, to have a little bit of self-respect and dignity, and not allow the world to trample on us, which is exactly what the current administration wants to happen. Clearly, again, if we agree as a society that your actions speak louder than your words, well, then it doesn't matter what Obama or anybody else says.
Yep.
Their rhetoric doesn't matter. What are they doing? What are their actions? What do their actions indicate? And their actions indicate that they want to actively bring down what we know and what we love as is in regards to our country and our Constitution. Clearly, there should be no debate about that. Now, whether or not you agree that that's something that should happen is a whole other topic. That's something that we can discuss later, because there are some that do agree, well, America does need to be brought down at least a peg or two, if not completely.
Well, Obama endorsed that thought in the beginning.
Absolutely.
Went around campaigning and apologizing to the whole world.
But
before
again,
bombing them.
That's right, before bombing the hell out of them. But again, that's another topic for a whole another episode. But those people aside who do believe with that mind thought, let's get them out of the picture. If you don't believe in that train of thought, well, then you're kind of obligated to stand up against it. If you can see clearly, if you can put the rhetoric aside and just look at the actions objectively and say, after observing those actions, that, oh, these bastards are trying to bring us down, well, then you're obligated to do something about it, to speak up about it, to start a blog, to start a podcast, to start picketing, to run for some kind of office, to do whatever you can in order to reverse the actions of the status quo.
Yeah, and if you have a great sheriff like this guy out in
Joe,
Texas, did you believe him?
Whatever?
Stand beside them, because the heat's going to come down on them if they take a stand against these people.
Right.
But they have the balls to stand against these people. So you need to make sure that you're actively involved in that. Or you can just let them fall by the wayside, and whatever happens to you, and there will be nobody to protect you.
Right.
Happened in Nazi Germany.
Right, and that's a great point that you bring up there, because when you have individuals that are standing up like that, if you allow them to stand on their own, what's eventually going to happen is that they're going to look around, and they're going to say, there's nobody backing my play here. So if you don't care, why should I care? And eventually they're going to give up.
Or get picked off.
Because there's strength in numbers.
Yep.
There's strength in numbers. And so if enough of us stand up behind these individuals who are brave enough to stand up and say, no, I'm not going along with this, and I'm going to fight against it, if enough of us do that, it sends the message to the powers that be that they're outnumbered, because it only takes 5%. And that was proven in history. That was proven in 1776. That was started by just 5% of the population.
Speaking of strength in numbers, this will be a great topic perhaps for the next show, but Ferguson, all these cops militarized, ready to, I guess, tear gas or maybe fire bullets into crowds of angry protesters if things don't go their way. That's really going to set something unique off in the world, because let me tell you something, if you are part of that black community that actually does rally together and stand together, you do have something to be proud of.
Amen.
That is the
Good
correct mindset.
Right.
I don't endorse everything that people stand for, but that is the correct way to make things happen.
Or not even necessarily stand for how you're going about it, because though I do personally support the fact that they're standing up, I don't support the way
looting.
A lot of them are going about it, as far as looting and destroying your own community. That's just counterproductive. But there's something to be said about young people pulling together, standing up against the powers that be, standing up against the status quo and saying, look, we're tired of this. We're not taking this anymore. This is crazy. You people have guns. You have weapons. You have a majority of Caucasian individuals that are oppressing the African American brown people in this community. Look, you're outnumbered.
And let me tell you, if things go awry in Ferguson, that's possibly going to set things off nationally. I don't think that's going to be contained to Ferguson. So let's just shoot some prayers out there for that community.
Amen.
Because that could be a lot of unnecessary deaths, because the mindset and the stage is being set completely wrong. and it's
Right.
been built that way, possibly by design or possibly by accident over the years.
Right, because this, and on a final note here, as far as I'm concerned, as far as this whole thing with the Brown individual, Brown being his last name, I don't remember his first name, unfortunately, but the young man who was shot and killed, regardless of whether or not that was a justified killing on behalf of the officer, is irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, there's been a lot of oppression and violence against the black community in that part of the world, in Missouri, for long enough that they're standing up for themselves. Michael Brown is his name.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether or not that was a justified killing is irrelevant. Something needs to change. Something needs to change. And even if it is proven that the officer acted in self-defense, which I highly doubt, but if that does turn out to be the case, it doesn't matter. Obviously, the African American community in that neighborhood have been oppressed for far too long, and I say good on them for standing up and trying to do something about it and trying to make some kind of change. And if nothing else, at least showing the powers that be that the young people do care about their community and their society and the world as a whole, and they will stand up for what they believe in, one way or another. I just hope that they try to do it in a peaceful way, because violence is never the answer. It's more counterproductive than anything, and it's not necessary. What we need is more civil disobedience.
Yeah, I'm just hoping no cop fires into the crowd for any reason, because that's it. That's going to set off Ferguson War.
Yeah, it's gonna cause more harm than good, and it's not necessary. We all just need to come to the table, but at the same time, just let them know, look, we'll sit down at the table with you, we'll have a discussion with you, but if you're not going to seriously acknowledge what I have to say, then I'm going to do what I have to do, because at the end of the day, you are outnumbered.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing for people to remember, is that the powers that be are outnumbered. You have all the power, you have the strength. It only takes 5% of the population. Just look at 1776, study your history, and realize the power that you have. On that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for joining us here at LTF Let's Talk Freedom Radio. Please join us next week, Sunday. We will be here live once again, God willing. And once again, you can follow us on Twitter. That's Talk Free Podcast. On Facebook, please like our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Freedom Talk Now. And make sure you click the follow button here on our Spreaker channel. That's Spreaker.com/user/Let's Talk Freedom. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you to all of our loyal listeners, and welcome to all of our new listeners. At this point now, we're over 600 new followers and counting. We're picking up an average of 100 followers per week.
Craziness.
So the show is definitely climbing. So thank you guys for spreading the word. Please continue and keep up the good work. God bless each and every one of you. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, give us some feedback. No offense, Apocalypse and Neo-Nazi Dumb F*CK, but we actually would like to hear some real feedback that is significant and has some content, because we thrive off your energy.
Right,
so,
absolutely.
Peace and love.
Peace and love, right on. We are our one human family. So God bless each and every one of you guys for sticking with us, and we'll see you next week. God bless you. Goodbye.
Because she right through you. You're wasting your time because she right